Hi there, and welcome to Let's Slow Down, a podcast for all of you who feel tired and stressed from this overwhelming world. Here we'll have fun, inspiring conversations about living life on our own terms and explore ways to ease the pace of our modern world, because life really is good when you're relaxed enough to be present for it. I'm your host, Anne-Marie Stolting, and I welcome you to this space where I hope to inspire you to slow down, because life is too short to let it go by in a blur. So take a deep breath, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome to another episode of the Let's Slow Down podcast. Today, I have a friend of mine. Her name is Claire, and she is the host of the Mother Glow podcast. She's coming to us all the way from New Zealand today, which is very special. Thank you for taking the time today, Claire, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. It's such a joy to be here. I'm very excited to talk to you again.
We go back a ways. We've met in a podcasting course almost a year ago now, and I had the honor of being on Claire's podcast, which I shared with all of you, and I will reshare that once this episode comes out as well. And now I'm so excited to have you on mine. So why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Thank you. It's always a trick of where to start when I tell people about myself. But yes, I'm a mum of two. My children are currently 14 and 12 years old, and we live in New Zealand in a rural beachside town. And yeah, I love supporting women to slow down. Your topic really resonates with me so much. I think as mothers, we can get so caught up in the busyness of it all and all of the things we should be doing, all of the expectations from others, from the internet, from everywhere really. And so to be able to tune in to ourselves, to create that space to hear what our gut feelings are telling us and what's right for us and our children, because that is a really unique journey, is such an important piece of the puzzle of mothering, of raising children, and also making sure we don't get burnt out ourselves in the process.
Absolutely. And I mean, I know that I've been there with the burnout and just feeling so depleted. I'm guessing you've probably felt that at some point as well. And it's a constant challenge, I think, to figure it all out. There's so much going on, and I've been working on this for a long time and trying to be aware of when I feel the burnout kind of creeping in and when I know I'm getting to that point. And it doesn't matter how long how long I've been talking about it and studying it and reading about it, it's still really hard. I want to just dive into this a little bit. How do you're busy, you have a lot going on in your life, you're raising two kids. And what are some things in your day-to-day? Are there any types of routines that you are pretty good about sticking with that help you navigate this?
So I love meditation. Meditation has been something that has always been an anchor for me to come back to. I'm not necessarily a routine person. I don't think everybody is, but I am quite an aware person. My way of kind of coming back to myself is more around that organic self-awareness of how am I feeling, tapping into that throughout the day. And so you will use that awareness, and then I will, I need to just take a break this afternoon and meditate. I do love morning meditations, but as a mum, it's not always possible. Like if I've had a night up, if the kids have been sick or something, and I know that this is a struggle with a lot of mums, especially when our children are young, we need that sleep in the morning. So I will maximize that sleep until I, possibly can, because sometimes that can be the deepest sleep if the night has been rough. And it will be about, getting up and getting the kids ready and then taking some time for myself. So I'd love to say that I'm one of those people that, gets up really early and has all this time for myself in the morning. I love the idea of that, but it's just not me. And so, for a while I had a bit of self-judgment around it, because I was like, why can't I do this? Why can't I just sit my butt down every morning? And, but I've just never been a really strict routine kind of person. I get very bored with it, and then I end up rebelling against it. So I'm kind of,
and that's okay.
But I have to let go of that judgment of myself of not being able to, really just have that routine and sort of sit down for a period of time and quiet my mind. And I know that when people start things like meditation, they'll sit down and the mind will get so busy and so loud, and it ends up being a stressful 10 minutes, not an actual calm, relaxing 10 minutes. So, and there's other ways of doing meditation that doesn't require just sitting still and quieting the mind, which actually isn't the purpose of it anyway. It's really that self-awareness. So I love like going out. Sometimes I'll mix it up a lot just because that's my personality. So, I love going for walks and really just being in the beauty of nature and listening to the birds and just feeling that breeze on my face. And I live by the beach, so that's just, of course, always such a beautiful grounding place to go to.
Yes, it's my favorite. Nothing more grounding than the beach. Yeah.
And just being, it's that mindfulness piece, and that's a form of meditation as well. And other times I will just sit with my tea and just go into that like daydream state and just allow myself to get into a daydream. And other times I'll sit down with a guided meditation, which is what I also love as well. I find that much better than just sort of trying to sit silently. Being guided through a meditation is a really nice way to do it. So yeah, I think that piece, just to answer your question about routine and how I do it and how I kind of overcome burnout, is to really have that sense of self-awareness, which I've had to cultivate over the years. And sometimes it's been through getting to those states of burnouts that I'm like, I had to do something. And so it's been a muscle that I've developed over the years. It's not been something I just decided one day. Because what I realized was that when I'm stressed out and strung out and not looking after myself, it's not fun for the kids. And my son is highly sensitive and he just mirrors me. He always has. And so if I'm snappy, and even now, if I've got a tone in my voice that sounds stressed, he'll pick it up and he'll take it personally. And so I'll often have to say, I'm sorry, I'm just feeling stressed about this right now. Like the other day, my coffee machine broke. Like, it's not you, I just broke my coffee machine.
It's a disaster. Not your fault.
So, I mean, of course, I don't always get it right. It's a journey, but our kids are such a beautiful, I think they're my master teachers. They're always bringing me back to this necessity for me to be self-aware, for me to take care of myself, so that I can be more available for them through the emotions that they have, because it can be such an intense journey. So if I've realized, if I, taking care of myself is part of taking care of my children. Same.
Yep. I remember reading that in all the baby books, First Time Mom, all those books mention that. And in theory, it sounds great. And then actually having it play out in your life can be really tricky. And I've seen the same thing with my kids. They do mirror, if I'm in a mood, they're going to mirror that mood to a point. And boy, is that rough when you see that stuff bouncing back in your face, right? It does make you stop in your tracks and rethink things. I'm wondering how in your house, you having more awareness of all this and, working on this and going on this journey, how has it changed the way you interact with your kids? For example, you see your mood coming back at you through your son, right? You just snapped and now he's noticing it. He's feeling that. What do you do with that? Where do you go from there?
The big part of this journey is I've had to overcome so many of my automatic responses, my conditioned ways of living, because I'm a sweep it under the carpet kind of a person. Through whatever experiences when I was young, I've just learnt that. And so I sort of bottle my emotions. But I haven't been able to do that anymore because he can feel it if I'm holding on to emotion. So I've needed to have this way of really releasing a lot of my pent up emotion and stress. And so have that continual dedication to myself to really calm myself and come from that, my own relaxed central nervous system, so that then I can respond to my children and have that space of, if something happens and I'm feeling stressed, to just take a deep breath so that I can really center and balance myself before responding, instead of what I would do in the early days is just react. And I would feel and hear all of my stuff coming out.
Yes,
My
I've
voice,
been there.
my actions. My
Yeah.
toddler was going, I need some attention too. I didn't have that emotional capacity to be able to support them with their stuff when I was stressed and strung out. So that, I think, has been the biggest shift, that for me, taking care of myself and really going on my own journey of self-awareness, self-realization. I think letting go of so much of my own stuff so that I can just be and be present with them and just be that clear space that they need when they're having their big emotions, but also to model that for them. And
I was just going to say, you're doing them such a service by modeling that. And
yes,
that's going to shape who they are and how they handle their emotions as they grow, right? As the emotions get bigger, as they get older. So that's huge. It's a win-win.
Yeah. And now that my son's older, if I am feeling upset or, for whatever reason, it's so sweet because he'll often come to me and he puts his hand on my shoulder and he says, just take some deep breaths, Mum, just breathe, which is what I tell him.
That's really sweet.
So nice because, he's often obviously learned that that's what we do to, move through the big emotions, is take those deep breaths. So yeah, yes. I mean, that's been really beautiful to see now that they're older, that those habits are more ingrained, as far as these are ways that we can process and move through emotions rather than bottling it all up and not talking about it and not expressing it, because that's not helpful.
It'll catch up at some point. It's going to come out at some point. Might as well have it come out in a little healthier way, right?
I was just going to say, mothering's such an undoing of everything and then a rebuilding, and we get to choose.
I love that. That's such a great way to think of it for me as well. I have definitely found that to be the case. And that choice is huge. That choice is important. That's something that I kind of just figured out I had not too long ago. Oh, I have a choice. It doesn't have to be this way. I don't have to feel burnt out and exhausted all the time. I have a choice. And even that was like a light bulb went off when I realized, oh, I have the power to change this, because I think we are from a generation of just go, 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 just put your head down, push through it. You could sleep when you die kind of thing. And I realized I don't want to live like that. It's not working for me. It's definitely not working for my family. Because as you said, if you can't show up for yourself, you are not showing up for anybody else. So
yeah, and times are so different now. There's so many expectations on, particularly as we become mothers, and we do need to really be aware and filter out some of the things that we're choosing to do and not do it all, and not feel guilty for not doing it all, and really deciding on what is right for my family. So in the work that I do, I talk about, values and defining our own values and living, filtering our decisions through our family.
yes.
But something that's been really incredible and healing for me is discovering matrescense. And this is this journey that we go on as soon as we decide to become mothers, in whatever way that looks like for us. Our brain starts to change. And there's so many, just in the same way with adolescence, that we go through these brain changes. Our brain just completely melts down and rebuilds itself, like that sort of chrysalis phase. A very similar thing happens when we become mothers. We go through a very similar brain changes.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And research has only really started on this in the last sort of 10 or 15 years. And there's a lot more research now that's, done into the brain and the changes that happen. And being pregnant is a key part of that. We've got the placenta that reaches up into the brain. It switches off our stress response so that our body can grow this, sort of more foreign being. It's part of us, but it's a whole new person inside of us. And we've got this hormone producing factory that inside of our body that is changing our hormones. It's the biggest hormonal shift that we have throughout our adult life. And our brain changes from not just me thinking anymore, but we thinking, and our empathy increases. And so as our brains go through this transformation, they become more plastic, so they become more moldable. And so we're actually in this prime time in our lives to remold our brain through the journey of parenting and let go of all of that stuff that isn't supporting us, that our children give us that direct feedback. No, that's not going to work around here anymore.
No.
So fascinating. And
it really is.
Yeah, it's not talked about, which I just can't understand how not everybody knows about this.
You introduced me to that word. I had never heard that term before. And it's fascinating, and it makes perfect sense when you explain it.
Yes, doesn't it? I think it's just absolutely incredible that our bodies and our brains change so much to be primed to look after our babies. But the trouble really in our society is that there's so much focus on looking after the baby. Is the baby okay? Everyone talks about, the baby's born, and all of our, particularly in New Zealand, and I think possibly the same in the US, that all the focus, people come over and visit the baby, and mum is sitting there going, hello, over here. And I certainly experienced that. I felt really invisible, after I had children.
I used to joke that the second I had my first daughter, I was no longer Anne Marie. I was Ella's mom. I felt like that was like my new identity in the world. And I kind of joked, but it's kind of sad too. I mean, not that we're not proud to be parents, but can be proud to be ourselves as well.
Yes. And this is part of this, really the key part of the transformation of matrescence, and the essence of it is that we become in relation to our children. And it's this huge, not only physical shift, but identity shift as well. And we change our passions, as our children grow up, they get into different things. And so we become, like dance mums or soccer mums, or for me, I was like equestrian mum, basketball mum, like whatever our kids get into, we sort of tend to get into as well. But then there's also this sense of, who am I as a mum, but then also who just am I? And so that has been part of my quest as well, is that sort of, it's a real kind of confusion and disorientation and fuzziness.
Yes.
We can't feel anymore, especially if you've had like a great life before kids. We're pulled because it's like we love our kids so much and we love being their mother and things like that, but then we also have this often yearning to also be somebody ourselves as well. They have this identity of who we are too, and we're always going to have that mother role, but it's like, and then what else? Who am I? It's this whole sort of becoming of who are we in this next phase of our life.
Yes.
Too. So
yeah. It can be really challenging. And I mean, everything you're saying, I can relate to. I'm sure others can. I've definitely been there. And I know I was looking through your Instagram feed, which is awesome. So I would encourage everyone, I will link all of that stuff later in the show notes. You had talked about, what is your purpose? And I think that goes along with what we're saying here. What is your purpose? And you said your purpose is to be fully expressed as who you truly are. And that's beautiful. And so well put, but that can be tricky trying to figure that out.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, when they hear purpose, relate it to their work, and that's that identity of who am I in the role that I play in my life. And again, it's putting the identity of who we are external to us. So who am I? I'm a mother. Who am I? I'm this, and we relate ourselves to our external life, but it's a real journey and quest, and I like to refer to as the journey of matrescence, because matrescence speaks to this becoming a mother, and it's like, who am I as a mother, and it's this lifelong unfolding, it's this lifelong journey of us discovering who we are and becoming more of who we truly are and letting go of a lot of the rest of it. And the self-discovery of this essence that lives within us. And I think our children, again, are just so great at showing us who we truly are. In, you know, we've talked a lot today about that, those sort of times when their emotions are high and those stressful times, but then in balance to that is, the love that they give us is so unconditional. They don't actually require us to do all the things for them to love us. They just
Right.
love us. And I mean, my kids are getting into teenagers now. It's sort of, you know, as you know, it does change a little bit these days, don't you? It's not the same, but like if you think about, you know, little kids, I mean, they're toddlers and they see you come home and they run to the door and give you the biggest, most pure cuddle, and that, like, their love is just so, it brings tears to my eyes just talking about it. Their love is so
there's no
pure.
strings attached, attached at all.
There is just no other love like that in the world. And to know that another being, it's making me a little emotional, you know, loves you like that, and then to be present with that and to feel that love inside of us and allow ourselves to express and feel that love as much as we can, because to feel the love from them means that we already are that love in us. We already are that emotion. And so our children as well allow us to build who we are and build that love that we are. And that's really all it is. Like, that's who we are.
You can just boil it down to that. And it can be so simple when we just get rid of all the other noise. And I think that that's been a big part of my journey, trying to slow down and simplify my life. You were talking about your values and vision, and I've been thinking a lot about that too. And I think that it's all connected, and really having a true sense of what your values are, family being a big one, I think for both of us, helps everything else sort of fall into place. It makes it easier to make these decisions. It makes it easier to maybe say no to some of the stuff that doesn't really align, that really is just extra. And maybe we just don't have it in us to do it at the time. You had mentioned intuition. I feel like we just have to listen to it. We've already got it. Like you said, that love's already in us. We already know what we need to do. We just have to listen.
Very true. And that takes slowing down to listen. It takes creating that space. And part of why I love meditation so much, because it gives us that break of, like, the demands of devices and all the pulls and demands of being a mother. Allows us that space to just connect in with our heart and connect in with our intuition and hear the voice of our intuition. And yeah, you're right. And love is a big part of one of my values, which plays in, of course, to my family and all of that. And yeah, when we can prioritize, and from that mindfulness space of, you know, for me, I asked that question, will this allow me to strengthen the love, that feeling of the love that I have with my family and my children, or is it going to take me away from it? Is it going to make me more busy? Is it going to make us more stressed out? Like, you know, like just simple things like the kids' activities over the years. Sometimes I'm like, am I doing this for me, for my enjoyment of the social part of it, that I, you know, going and talking to other mums and stuff? Or, you know, because when sometimes they'll get to that point, they'll do a season, they're like, you know, it's harder to get them there. And I'm like, you know what you want, and my kids know what they want. And so to let them follow their passions and to choose the activities that they want to do. And if they don't want to do that activity anymore, why am I booking them in for another season? You know, so really
exactly.
Yeah, because it's so easy to put so much on our plate, and then our afternoons after school are so busy, and
everything's gotten to be too much. And I kind of take it one step further. We really try to think about, okay, are you really loving it? Are you really having fun? Because the commitments are so intense these days that it's like, if you don't love this, like, it's not worth it. The time, the money, the away from home, away from family, all of it isn't worth it unless you're like really into it. And I try to ask the kids too, let's look at the big picture. It's a good problem, I guess, but I kind of view it as an issue, is that my kids do enjoy doing a lot of things. So they're like yep, we're in 100%. And then I'm thinking, well, I'm drowning over here. So how do we find like a middle ground where everyone is doing okay with these decisions? So that's been tough for me to navigate as a mom as they're getting older, because, I certainly don't want them to resent me down the road, but I don't want them to look back on these years and just remember like rushing around from practice to activity. I'd like to have some family memories in there too, some quality. Doesn't have to be big trips or anything glamorous, but just dinner as a family once in a while. Just those little things that are, to me, are really important for them. So
So important. And like you say, it doesn't have to be big things. And we're the same, like having dinner every night as a family is just so important to us. No phones at the dinner table. We all come and we sit together, and sometimes it's the only time in a day that we will all sit down together, and we'll have that time to just chat and check in. And
yeah, that connection is important. And that's really the building blocks of our family and at the heart of it all. So, and hopefully we'll shape them as people.
Absolutely. And connection is one of my values as well. It's just so beautiful and so important. And you're right, what you said about providing for our kids, but then also, if we're feeling like, hey, I'm drowning over here, this is too much, then we need to consider ourselves in the decision making of the activities that our kids are doing too. Always considering ourselves, not just our children. Otherwise, it's a fast road to burnout. And then, like we talked about, we're just no good to anybody.
Exactly. I know you had done a whole episode, and I've mentioned this in a lot of my episodes, the heaviness of that word should, where, in our head, we think we should, or someone told us we should, or half the time I think I just make it up. I'm like, you know what? Again, I have a choice. Don't have to do this. But I think it's just part of who I've become. I think it's all around us that we just put this pressure on ourselves to do so much. I'm really learning as I go on this journey to slow down that I don't need to measure myself by like how productive I am every day. It's not necessarily what I'm going for. It's not going to necessarily fill the cup at the end of the day.
Changing our ways of measuring our success at the end of the day, and especially when our kids are little, because productivity doesn't happen.
It happens in other ways, right? We're producing good humans. So there's that.
The productivity that we used to think was a measure of success is so different. It really changes so much. And the fact that if you can get through the day, it's really like, that is it. That is productive day.
You did it.
Yeah. And that shifts, it changes and things, doesn't it, throughout our
it does.
Together in the different stages and phases. It's this constant evolution, and that's why the journey of matrescence lasts a lifetime. And then when our kids become parents as well, we go through another phase, and it's just this whole expansion, incredible journey. It's just
it is an expansion, because it's just giving us so much more of what matters. And it's a beautiful way to look at it. I think we were mentioning before, it's a constant evolution, and we forget that we're not the same people that we were 10 years ago or before kids, or, even if you don't have kids, somebody's in their 40s, they are not the same person that they were in their 20s. They're just not. And sometimes we forget to like let go of those things. Okay, leave them in that decade. What are you doing in this decade? It doesn't always click right away that we need to be doing different things. And I think that whatever type of meditation or slowing down that people can incorporate in their lives will help them figure out what it is that they need now. That being present is just huge. I think I went a couple of years without being present at all, because I was just rushing all the time, and time can just fly by without even noticing.
It really does. So easy for that to happen. And it does take that, again, it's that awareness, isn't it? Oh, hang on a minute, this is not working. What do I want? What do I need? What is going to be helpful for my family? And then staying out of judgment with that. So compassion of tuning in with our intuition. What do I need? What do my children need? And taking those steps, putting our feet flat on the ground where they are right now, not grasping for the past, not forecasting into what the expectations for the future, but just really, what is it that we need? And then taking those one step at a time steps forward and continuing to have that awareness and pivot if we need to. It doesn't have to be these huge, big life decisions all the time. It's just this constant evolution and unfolding. And again, our kids are so good at telling us what they need and highlight it. They're so good, I think, at highlighting their needs.
Yes, I agree.
We can give ourselves that space as well to highlight our own needs and, get our needs met, asking for help.
Huge. That is huge. Yes. And just seeing where things go. I think letting go of trying to have everything be so controlled and talking about the future, like knowing what's going to happen next. Guess what? We don't always know. And sometimes it's better that we don't for good and bad. That's the fun of it too.
It really
if we knew
is.
it all, it would be so boring.
Yeah, I love just going with the flow. I think that's why I'm not really sort of a strict kind of routine person. I really do love just going with the flow, letting things unfold. And then you can be open to awe and surprise and wonder and, all those magical aspects of life too, when you can just be more in the presence and the beauty that's just all around us.
I agree. Those are some of the best parts. Yeah, there is so much. I did notice that once I really started to pump the brakes a little bit. I'm like, wow, this has been here all along. And I never really stopped to realize, we say stop to smell the roses. It's true. We don't do it if we don't slow down a little bit. And I'm hoping that the offer still stands. I'm thinking of after this episode airs, we'll do a little mini-sode, maybe just a short little meditation. Claire does meditation. So maybe you can create like a 5-minute practice for our listeners so that everybody can experience this if they haven't done so already. And obviously meditation can look like so many different things, but Claire will guide us in one that we can tune into whenever we need it, pretty frequently, I think, for me anyway.
It would be my honor. I would love to do that. Yes, such a great idea.
Thank you. And I guess as we kind of park the car and wind this up today, anything you want to leave the listeners with? Any little things to think about or any things to, try to implement in their life now to really be where their feet are?
Yeah, I think to breathe. Really, our breath, it's something that we always have with us. It's just always a tool that's there, even if we can't sit down and, meditate, to just take some deep breaths anytime, all the time if we can, but obviously we don't. But the breath is such a powerful tool to allow us to come back into the moment, to be present, to bring our bodies out of the state of stress and into our body's own natural, calm, healing state, so that then we can calm our nervous system. And, our kids, when they're little, they borrow our nervous system because their nervous systems aren't fully developed yet. So when they're growing up, they'll borrow our central nervous system to regulate their own.
Wow.
Isn't that
I did not know
amazing?
that. Yes.
Yeah. So even, another kind of tick for the vote to be taking care of ourselves and how
Sure.
caring for our. And so just to take those deep breaths and really breathe into the belly. I love humming with the exhale. So, taking the deep breath in and then just letting out a gentle, slow hum. And humming's been found to release the happy hormones and endorphins, oxytocin in our body, which brings us into that calm, self-healing state. And it's just a really beautiful practice, lovely thing to model for our children as well, that taking those deep breaths, it brings us back to the present moment and allows us to really navigate our lives and make those decisions from more of a space of presence, of intuition, and reconnecting again with our values. So I'll create a meditation. The meditation that I create for your listeners will be around the breath, about just coming back into our own values and then having our feet flat on the ground and then being able to move forward from that space, just realign, reconnect, and then move forward.
That sounds amazing. I feel calmer just hearing you talk about it. I feel like I was just focusing on my breathing as you were saying that. And it's incredible the
Yes.
difference that you feel instantly. And we have it with us all
Isn't
the
it?
time.
We're always breathing. Yeah, breathing, you might as well do it. It's just so accessible. We don't need to turn on the music and turn on the candles and do anything
Right.
special. It's just like,
Keep it simple.
keep it
Yeah. Just
simple. Yes.
breathe. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
perfect way to end today. So everyone just go take a few minutes when this ends and just breathe. And we will follow up with a guided breath meditation. It'll be really fun and relaxing. Claire, I learned so much from you today. You know a lot of really interesting facts. And thank you for sharing all of that and your amazing personality. And just thanks for being here today. Your energy is really special.
Oh, likewise, Anne-Marie. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's just so beautiful to connect with you today. Your energy is just so warm and loving, and you're so easy to talk to. So it's just been such a joy. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode and have been inspired to slow down and start living life at your own pace. As a brand new podcast, your listener voice matters. If Let's Slow Down is resonating with you, please take a minute to leave a review and rate us. Subscribe to the show wherever you listen and share it with friends. Remember, this is a process, so go easy on yourself. Be gentle and take all the space you need to thrive, because the world needs you to be at your best, to love and serve others and yourself.